welcome to the tutorial on how to create this gorgeous goose with bow design. Now if you have the Pixie&Me DIY kit, you'll have all the tools you need to create this piece, including a fabric marker, a stitching needle, and of course the yarn included as well. Now to start, we're just going to cut around our design. Now when you've finished cutting around, don't throw away these excess pieces, as you can draw on them and do future designs on them if you like. It's quite pricey stuff, so you want to keep hold of that and use it if you can. Now to make sure that we are nice and central to our garment, you can do this a few ways. You can of course use a measuring tool like a ruler. I personally like to count the stitches either side of my design, and when I know that I've got equal stitches on each side, then my stencil is nice and central. You can use your fabric marker to put a little marking either side, so when you do peel your design off the backing, you know exactly where to place it. You want to press your design onto your garment as firmly as you can, and then we're going to go in and start stitching. So we're going to start with a bow here. Now for this one I'm going to be using the blue yarn, and we're going to put onto our needle approximately 1 to 2 meters of yarn. Now to thread our yarn onto our needle, we're just going to pinch it between our 2 fingers and then just pull it through. Now there's no fancy knots needed here. You're just going to have an overhang of about 3 or 4 centimeters. Now we're going to start with a stitch called a satin stitch or a straight stitch, and we're going to start with the center of the bow. So to do this, we're going to bring our needle up through the center of that centerpiece, and a satin or straight stitch can look, well, it looks very easy, but it can actually be quite tricky. So we're just going to pull our yarn through, and then underneath we're just going to leave a tail which we're going to tie off to later. And this is just a simple straight stitch, so we're just going to bring it straight down into that center part there. And why I say it's a little bit tricky is it can be quite hard to make this look really neat and uniformed. So the way I like to do it is to split it into 2 halves. So we're going to start with the right side here, and we're just going to bring our stitch down as the circle starts to get less and less as it curves around. So we'll probably stick about 3 stitches into this part here. And now we can move our needle across and complete the same thing on the left-hand side of the center part of the bow. And now to tie off, we're just going to flip our garment over, and we've got 2 tails there, which we're simply going to tie into a triple knot. Next, we're going to thread onto our needle again about 1 to 2 meters of the blue yarn again, leaving a tail underneath. We're then going to take our needle back down through the hole that we just created to make a lazy daisy loop or a lazy daisy stitch. And we've got this little loop here now, and we're going to take our needle to the top section of where this bow ends. So you can see now where I'm just going to bring my needle up, and then I'm just going to put that loop over my needle and pull it through. We can then anchor that down with a stitch, and then we have enough yarn on our needle to repeat this same process on the other side. From here, we've got enough yarn on our needle to start doing the outline of the bow. And for the outline of the bow, we're going to be doing what's called a back stitch. So for this one, we're going to bring our needle down about 1/2 centimeter away from our starting point, which is the top right-hand section. And we're going to bring our needle into that top section now. And from here, we're going to do a back stitch. So then we're going to bring our needle down again about 1/2 centimeter, and then drop it back into the last stitch. Now, as we reach the corners, I would suggest using a smaller stitch, only because if we do our stitches too big here, it can lose the shape of the bow. And we're just going to carry on like this until we reach the center point. And now we have enough yarn on our needle to continue to fill in this part of the bow. And again, that's going to be with the straight stitch or the satin stitch. And again, we're going to put it into half and do half to the right, half to the left. Now we still have plenty of yarn on our needle, so we're going to carry on doing the back stitch and again fill in this section just like we did on the right side. Now if you have enough yarn left again, which you should have, we're just going to do a back stitch and again a satin stitch to fill in this section here. So now that we've done all of that, we've got to flip our garment over, and now you'll see we've got a couple of tails here. So you can see these two tails, they're not quite close enough, and if I tie them now into a triple knot, it could potentially cause some gathering. So I'm just going to thread one of the tails on. We're just going to thread back through our work to make these two nicely together. We can then tie them off in a triple knot and snip away any excess, and repeat this same process with the other two tails that we've got there on the right. And that's our little bow done. You might want to take your needle and just give it a little bit of a rejig, making sure that your stitches are all nice and neat. And now we're going to thread onto our needle about 2 meters of the white yarn. Now you can see here, I've actually gone ahead with a ruler and I've marked 1/2 centimeter with my fabric marker all the way around the edging of the goose's body. And this is just going to make it a little bit easier for me and keeps my stitches really nice and neat and uniformed. So we're just going to come up to our first point and we're leaving a tail underneath to tie off to, and then we're going to go in with the back stitch all the way around the edging of our goose's body. And now as we reach this bit, which is a little bit more detailed, we're just going to make our back stitch just a little bit shorter so that we can keep that detail and we're not losing it amongst really big heavy stitching. And now that the tail detail is finished, we're just going to continue our back stitch all the way up to the top of the bow. And once we've done that, we can then flip our garment over, and of course we've got two tails. One is our starting tail, one is still threaded. Now here, because I want to keep my work nice and neat, I'm going to do a whip back stitch all the way through that work that we just created so that these two tails are together. Once they're together, I'm just going to pop a little triple knot in there and snip away any excess ends. Now we're going to move on to the same process, this time for the head. So again, it's just our back stitch all the way around. And then once again, we're going to turn our garment over and we're just going to whip back stitch until these two tails are together and tie them off in a triple knot. Next, we're going to thread onto our needle approximately 1 meter of yellow yarn, and this is for the duck's feet. And again, it's the same process. We're just going to do a back stitch on all the outlines of the feet and keeping a tail underneath to tie off to. And we're just going to go nice and carefully. This is only a small stitching space, so we want to keep our stitches nice and short so that we don't lose any detail in the feet. And we're just going to repeat the exact same process for the other foot. And then again, once we're finished, we're just going to turn our garment over and we've got two tails there, which again will be triple knot together. For the beak, it's just a very simple back stitch, and then again, just tying off those two ends into a triple knot. Now for the wing, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put about 0.5 meter to 1 meter of white yarn onto our needle, and we're going to just do our back stitch all the way, trying to keep that detail there, so making our stitching nice and short. Now, I didn't realize, but when I was filming the eye part of the goose, I didn't actually film the French knot. Now, I do have lots of tutorials on how to show this, so if you want to learn how to do a French knot for the eye, just follow one of our tutorials. Otherwise, you can just put the very small amount of black yarn that we've included in the kit onto your needle and just do like an up and over stitch. The eye is very simple, so it doesn't need anything too fancy. Now to remove your stick and stitch, you're going to need a bowl of lukewarm water, and you can of course submerge it in this and just leave it in there for a little while. You might need to help it along a little bit as well, or you can use the shower like pressure section of your tap. I find this works probably more effectively, or personally I just pop it in a delicate wash into the washing machine. Flat lay to dry and you are good to go. I really hope you enjoyed this design. It's so cute. Happy stitching, guys.